This is an update on how we're doing preparing for our first 70.3 distant triathlon later this year. Hi there. So checking in. We just got through Mother's Day weekend, and it ended up being really crummy weather-wise, which is very frustrating. So had to do an indoor bike ride. I actually 4 hours on the bike, stayed on the bike the whole time, didn't get off for a break or anything, which was a good sign. Got in 55 miles, so just about the length of time or distance I need to go in an actual, or we'll be going in the 70.3 race we have coming up. So my starting point for time for that distance is the furthest and longest I've ever gone on the indoor trainer. So hoping that once I get outside, that translates to a little bit more speed and the like. I actually was able to watch a big chunk of the Ironman World Championship while I was biking. So that was the one good thing about it being inside, watching the likes of Daniela Reef and Christian Blumenfeld and Lionel Sanders kind of do their much harder ride out in St. George. What helped keep me motivated to keep going. It was also fun to be there with the kiddos, being able to kind of play games with them and things like that throughout the ride. So got that done on Saturday. Given it was raining and stuff, the treadmill's actually been hurting my knee a little bit, and it was pretty chilly, so it didn't really make sense to go out and try to run in the cold rain. So decided to nix the brick run afterward. Then on Sunday, got in a long run, kind of in chunks though, since it was Mother's Day. Our town does a Mother's Day 5K, and this was the first year we were back in person. So it was exciting. The girls wanted to run it with me this year instead of doing the kids 1 miler. So I took my 13-year-old and 10-year-old. Let my 13-year-old kind of go at her own pace, since we're in town with a bunch of people we knew around us, let her do her own thing. And then I ran with my 10-year-old at a made decent pace. I think it was about 13:20 was her pace or so. So proud of both of them. We finished about 40 seconds apart around the 40-minute mark. So proud of both of them. My town is hilly, so it's not like it was an easy run by any means. There were a couple small segments where I was dragging the 10-year-old up some hills with me because she thought she wanted to practically crawl. So explaining that we should keep going and keeping our feet moving even if we're walking. And so got that done. Very proud of both of them. My 13-year-old's already planning on how she can do better next year. My 10-year-old's already informed me she's not doing that run ever again. So we'll see. And then I went home, I dropped them off, and hubby went out and did his long bike ride while I went out and then did the rest of my long run. So I got another 8 miles in. Took a bit of a new trail. It's actually a path or trail or roads, I guess, that my husband usually runs since he works from home most of the time now. My runs here at the office are relatively flat because we're on the water. I don't get a lot of hill training here, so I really have to do that all during my weekend long run. So I took this path or these roads purposely because there was a lot more climb than I'm used to, so able to start working on that aspect of it. While the longer race we're doing doesn't have the climbing necessarily, in July, the race that we're doing has a fair amount of climb, and I want to make sure that I'm ready for that. That was my problem or my issue last year, was when we got to that race, my body was not ready for the climb, and I ended up walking up or significantly slowing down to really slow jog of the 2 sections of hill that it has there. So trying to make sure that I'm ready for that come July. And the hills here are at work planning for them, or getting them in only means that it should make a flatter course easier for me to run at a faster pace. So it was a little slower than I wanted to, but I caveat that with saying I had done 4 hours on the bike the day before. I had got done the race and then took a break, and so it was a little weird for my body. While I got in the total time and distance that I wanted to, it ended up being 11 total miles run/jog during the day. It was a little disjointed given we did the 5K and then I went and did this. So all in all, I was excited to get that done. Then got in a lot of recovery boot time, workout to make sure my legs were good for the week. And Monday I do like to treat generally as a recovery day because I do the longer workouts on the weekend. My body needs time to recover. I'm not 20 years old, I'm almost 40 years old this year, I will turn 40 later this year. So I want to make sure that constantly letting my body have the time to relax, recover, so that I can keep on with the training and more importantly not get injured in the process. So got in a dynamic recovery Monday morning. That's my favorite workout to do. Stretch and move around, make sure, you know, spend a lot of time on the legs, keep those hip flexors nice and open, especially after spending so much time on the bike and trying to be aero for a big chunk of that bike ride. And then got in just a nice, easy recovery bike ride last night as well. So just got home from work, hopping on and getting a quick bike in. It's Wednesday. I ended up with work meeting last night, kind of threw off my training schedule for the week. So we're gonna try to get in a ride with a brick run and then a swim, and I'm actually gonna take the girls swimming with me. So just starting to get warmed up here. At this point, the bike ride for me is all my bike rides during the week are really non-miss. The bike is where I have the most to gain, and I would say is kind of my biggest area that needs the most work. So that means the bike rides, all my bike rides are really non-missed, even the recovery ride. I did a recovery ride on Monday already. Honestly, if I could sit on the bike every day and do something, it'd probably be best at this point. Just to make sure I get my body really used to just that motion of the turning the legs over and over again. Even if it's a recovery ride, it should help and add and build, as well as just getting my body used to, you know, having my hands here, really being aero as much as possible, as well as you know, getting rear end used to the seat and all that fun stuff. So I do, when I come home from work and ride, I do still ride inside, even though it's now nice outside. And I do that because the time I get home, there's a lot of other cars on the road, and the roads around here are really narrow. And so it's pretty dangerous to be kind of out and about. So keep it inside. I can also do really specific workouts this way. So today I have 2 different sections of pretty hard, kind of above race pace effort to work through. So easier to do that when I'm in here versus outside, where I kind of got to go with the flow of the road and what's going on there, especially again because it's so hilly around here. So I find it easier to kind of have a controlled session in here and then do recovery rides and long rides outside to get used to the bike and the exact positioning and the ebb and flow of the road itself. So to answer some questions that have been asked recently about my training and what we're doing, what I'm doing. So Hubby and I started, well really he started doing these in 2018 and convinced me at the end of his first season to do one that I ended up doing with minimal training. We had some extenuating circumstances. I had to kind of stop training for a couple weeks there, as did he. So my first triathlon was pretty painful. But that actually only ended up motivating me to do more. I wanted to do better. I knew I could do better, especially on the swim and the run. That very first one, I think we walked almost half of the run course. So initially started with the short ones, sprints and Olympic distance races. And we kept it at that distance through 2019 because I'd had lingering knee injuries, knee injury from high school, from soccer, that really every now and then would kind of pop up and be a little problematic. So until I figured out how to get that under control, I didn't want to commit to doing a 70.3 distance race, and I didn't know how my knee would hold up. So during COVID, then, I mean, obviously most of our races got canceled, or actually I think they all got canceled and were postponed. And so I started focusing more on strength training because I didn't have any specific distance to train for, so I didn't see the point in kind of going and rattling off tons of bike and run sessions, especially long ones, if I didn't have any races. So what I did was I focused on strength training, and all of a sudden I found that my knees started feeling better. I started having fewer, so no problems actually, when I kept up with the strength training program. So really focused on that a lot in last year when I realized that that was the connection. And that's the point where I said to Hubby, I was like, I think we can do this. I think we can go do the 70.3 distance race. And that's why now we've decided to do it a couple years in versus jumping to it earlier on. Good morning, checking in, and just finished a hit run. So trying to work some speed into my workouts to work on getting faster, not just building endurance. So as an update, it's kind of a big update. We're no longer counting down to a June 70.3 race. Hubby raced not 2 weekends ago, I guess it was. And we believe he ended up getting a stress fracture on his foot, which means his training has definitely come to a big standstill. He actually got a bike in last night, but had to go super duper easy. And a lot of the races that we have signed up for involve a ton of hill climbing, especially on the bike. So we don't want him to get worse where he wouldn't be able to walk, period. So the good news is he can walk. He's going to recover in a couple weeks from now, so all will be good. We have an MRI scheduled for later this week just to get confirmed, because the x-ray didn't show anything specific, but the MRI will. So unfortunately, that means we've canceled our June 70.3 race. So we've deferred it. We're going to do that race next year. But we had luckily signed up for Ironman Atlantic City 70.3 in September. So that's the new goal from a 70.3 standpoint. That's when we'll do our first one. So for me, what that means is, one, help me feel good about taking a rest weekend this past weekend, when mentally and physically I was drained after a really busy week at work. So that was nice to do. And two, means I can focus on the 2 sprint races we have scheduled, or on the schedule, I have on the schedule for June. So the first one is in about 10 days from now. It's our local one. It literally, the bike path goes right past our house. So my kids usually go in the driveway and get to see it all. So that's always fun and exciting. And then there's another one about an hour away. That'll be my first swim, open water swim, like in the ocean or sound, this year. So trying to change up the workouts now, focus a little bit more on short distance and speed than the endurance type stuff I was working on before. And then we'll work on building to the 2 Olympic races we have scheduled in July once we get through this, I get through the sprints. So I will keep posting. We'll keep building to the 70.3 in September now, and I will catch up with everyone later.